Twilight Society? What was? Excuse me, Glory said with a frown. Your augmentation? Oh, well? There was a hiss next to the projector, and the wall of the metal cylinder peeled away to uncover a glass tank within. I wasn't just in charge of Steel Pony, she said as we stared at the contents of the jar. In the hazy water was a pony, technically a zoni, flayed of its skin and missing 3 of its limbs. Wires and tubes snaked out and into the carcass, and into a port in the floor. Tangles of wires emerged from empty eye sockets and missing ears. And maybe it was just me, but the corners of the ragged mouth curled into a smile as the projection declared, I was also a client. And that was when Scotch Tape started screaming. Do I like blackjack? Are you serious? Really? Fine. No, I don't like blackjack. Because every second I'm around her, I'm reminded of a place that hurt me. Because every time I think I'm over it, she does something to remind me of how much it sucked. She's a walking, talking reminder of everything that I hate. Sometimes I don't think that I'll ever be over it until she's dead. But no matter how much she hurt me, I know it's nothing compared to how much she hurts herself. She seems to have this masochistic need to suffer for simply surviving. She runs on guilt and angst, and one day she's going to choke on it. And I hate it, because there's nothing I can do to stop it. She's like an addict, hooked on martyrdom. She'll sacrifice her body, happiness, sanity, and life, trying to help others, even if they don't deserve it. And she'll beat herself miserable if she fails. How can you like a person like that? How can you love a person like that? No more stupid questions. Okay. Letting Scotch watch the end of Equestria, kick. Letting her sit in on the meeting, kick. Letting her leave chapel with us in the first place, kick, kick, kick. I mentally kicked myself over and over again as I waited outside the hospital room that had once housed Glory. I suspected that at this rate they were going to name a wing of the place Blackjack and Company Trauma Wing. Maybe 2 wings. Triage stepped out with a sigh. She sedated, just upset. Glory shook her head softly. She's not the only one. What the heck was Professor Zodiac thinking? How could she think that that was appropriate for a filly to see? Triage just looked at her levelly. Right, because most things in the wasteland are age-appropriate, she said in a tone saturated with sarcasm. She pulled out a cigarette and lit up. Anyway, you survived for 200 years, spend the last 20 stuck in a jar, and then tell me what's appropriate and inappropriate. I'm glad the professor isn't a complete basket case. What happened to her? Rampage asked as she looked in the direction of the planetarium. I mean, most ponies don't end up in jars. Not unless you folk are making pickles to a whole new level. Glory coughed at the smoke. Excuse me, she said, fanning a wing and wafting the cloud aside. Triage ignored her and snorted another roll of smoke from her nostrils. Not quite. She took an exploration team down the elevator shaft you lot came up. When she came back, half her body was gone. If it wasn't for her augmentations... She shook her head slowly. The college had got her stabilized, and in that jar, and she's been that way ever since. I sighed, looking around. No sign of Petrie 1 since we left the planetarium. I scowled, not liking this at all. Whether he wanted to admit she was his daughter or not, he could at least be here. Lacuna was also MIA. Excuse me, Glory said again. You're smoking in a hospital around patients and oxygen tanks? Her eyes blazed. You're a doctor. Triage blinked at Glory. So? Look around you. Glory snapped her wing out and swatted the cigarette out of the air. Triage scowled. What are you, the last Ministry of Peace inspector? You're a doctor! That means being more than a bit pissy, bitchy, and angry nag. You're supposed to be a professional. Act like it, she said as she brought her hoof down on the burning end. Wow. Go assertive Glory. No, the subject of Scotch tape, and not the person who tried to trick Blackjack. Are you certain there's nothing else you can do for her? Look, unless you want us to start messing with her memories, there's nothing I can do. And memory therapy was hard enough before everything got blown to pieces, she said crossly, glancing down at the mashed cigarette. But you can do it? I asked with a small worried frown and a glance at Glory. Somehow this felt easy. It made my stomach churn, though honestly that could have been from the taint. Triage sighed, glaring at Glory one more time before floating another cigarette to her lips, but not lighting it. Well, I did get a few books from the Fluttershy Clinic on how the spells were performed. I know enough to remove the block of memory, enough to for an event or two. But I'm not going to start dicing up her memories to take out just the bad stuff, though I'm definitely not going to try to add things. That's freaky stuff even I can't do. I sat down with a clatter as Rampage trod beside me. She was definitely aging, looking more like a mature filly. Still needed about a day, though. Blackjack, are you actually going to do this? I don't know, I muttered. Triage rolled her eyes. Well, let me know when you want to do. I'll be outside, finishing my unprofessional cigarette. Rampage watched her leave. I think she's angrier about losing a cigarette than having your horn to her throat. Personally, I could do with a shot or two of Wild Pegasus. Could I just have her memories taken away? Would that fix her? Make her happy? It felt dirty. Like a cheat. Rampage seemed to read my thoughts. You can't do this, Blackjack. Taking away her memories just to make her happy is wrong. She had a panic attack, Rampage. Are you saying we should just let her keep suffering? Glory countered with a worried look. We should take Blackjack's memories of 99 away? Rampage asked sharply. Or yours, Glory? I could never forget 99. I didn't deserve to forget that scream or that smell. The striped pony looked and took in a deep breath. Our memories make us who we are. Scotch tape is hurting really bad, so we help her work through it. Send her back to Chapel and the other Crusaders. Let her get over it. And what if she never does, Rampage? Glory countered. What if she can't get over it? So she loses 2 lousy days of pain and misery. There's nothing in that day I want to remember anyway. I could do with losing an hour or two myself. Rampage stared at both of us. Not remembering sucks. As terrible as it is, I wish I remembered killing Thorn. And she closed her eyes and swallowed hard before continuing. Because it would feel like I actually did it. Then my guilt would be justified. But I think about it, and all I remember is crying, and then nothing. And next thing I remember, Blackjack got me disintegrated, and every pony was pissed, and Thorn was... She grit her teeth. I'd give anything to remember, so I could understand why. Glory sniffed and rubbed her nose with a wing before resting a hoof on Rampage's shoulder. It's not the same. Rampage didn't do anything in that time but experienced monstrous things. She's not losing anything. I slowly pulled myself to my clattering hooves. There was only one way to deal with this. I trod across and tried to use my magic to open the door. Thankfully, the glow flickered a few times and then stabilized long enough to turn the handle and let myself inside. I closed the door behind me. I'd heard from positions A and B, but now I needed to hear from position Scotch. I hated hospital rooms, I realized. I hated the equipment that told you second by second if you were more or less alive. I hated the promise that you were always going to get better when in reality someday you wouldn't. My days might be numbered, but I wasn't going to end them in a place like this if I could help it. Scotch looked tiny and abandoned in the hospital bed. And thinking about P21, perhaps she was. I haven't seen you in a while, I said quietly to the dealer. The old pale buck stood opposite me. Haven't needed to be seen. I reckon you got on enough on your mind without me. He paused. You look like hell, Blackjack. I felt like it too. Goddesses, I was tired of being shot up. It didn't matter how many times they'd stuffed me in a magical healing box. I felt injured. I'd give anything to remember what it was like to not know how it felt to hurt all the time. I'm dying, I said with a shrug. Just like that, tears of angst to a shrug. I really had to be crazy. So, what's your position in all this? My position is no position, he said softly. What happens, happens. Because I'm screwed either way? I muttered quietly. Goddesses, I wish I could shoot the wasteland right in the face. If you want to think of it that way, he replied as he shuffled his cards and dealt a 3 of hearts, a 4 of hearts, and a 5 of hearts, a 6 of clubs, and an 8 of hearts. You might have a hand like this. You can't win. Got to discard one. So, which do you choose? The 6 of clubs. Better chance at a flush. He tossed it away and dealt the next card, Ace of spades. I smirked. Of course I didn't get the card I needed. Surprise, surprise. Yeah, you lost. So tell me, should you be kicking yourself for not discarding an 8 and going for a straight? I blinked in surprise and the cards disappeared. You want to do the right thing because you're afraid that, if you do the wrong thing, she'll suffer for it. Celestia wanted to do the right thing. Twilight Sparkle wanted to do the right thing. Even Golden Blood. But no matter how you analyze and predict, the fact is, sometimes you just lose, and you have to deal with it. Dealing with it isn't looking back with regret for making the wrong move. Yeah, but she's just a filly, I muttered softly. A filly who was watching me with a look of confusion. Sedated didn't mean unconscious. Right. She was looking at me with more than a little worry, which was probably not unjustified. I smiled, rubbed the back of my head. Sorry. Just talking to myself. Me and my crazy me. Okay, she wasn't smiling. I sighed as I trotted to the side of the bed. I'm sorry, Scotch. He's not coming, is he? She whispered. I'm not really his daughter, am I? Oh, P21, you are in so much trouble right now. And so am I for spilling the beans. Mom told me I was different from other fillies. That I had a daddy in the stable. I had to look up that word in the database. It'd been blacked out of the books at school. And when you told me, I thought it was a good thing. I thought I wasn't alone. She squeezed her eyes closed. I wish you hadn't told me, Blackjack. I stroked her mane with a soft sigh, trying to figure out how to tell her I could take it all away, or if Rampage was right and we should just help her struggle through, pain as it was. I stroked her mane gently. Don't worry about it. You'll be fine. No, I won't. I can't look at a wrecked skywagon without wondering if it's going to move. I saw that thing in the jar, and I thought she was going to eat me. I loved working on machines. I do. Mom taught me how to fix stuff when I was just a foal. If something in our quarters broke, she'd show me step by step at what went wrong and how to make it work. She shook her head. Now I think the machines are going to eat me. Damn it. For once, I'd like the wasteland to be, here's a nice and easy choice, Blackjack. Door with a fluffy white bunnies and carrots, or door B with spikes and landmines. Ooh, tough call. Just try and rest. The doctor will be here to check on you in a bit, I said quietly. She didn't say a word, closing her eyes again with a miserable little sniff. I wanted her back in chapel now, with fillies her age, fixing up the place, playing, having a better life than any other filly in Equestria. But this wasn't Equestria. This wasn't even a stable. This was the wasteland, and I should just be happy she was alive. But I wanted to give her more.